Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, is Stanley Kubrick's 1964 satire based in an alternate timeline of pre-Kennedy Cold War, wherein a psychotic U.S. Army general, Jack D. Ripper, initiates a seemingly unstoppable plan to bomb Russian cities based on his asinine and convoluted theories of how the communists plan to poison the water and replace our bodily fluids. Consequently, a war room full of generals and politicians work together to try and stop what may fuel a nuclear holocaust for the entire world. The early 1960s were a difficult time for the American people, but television became present in almost everyone's homes and they were shown news of what was truly happening in the world. War, poverty, racism, and nuclear threat became a part of people's daily lives. Around this time, the US and the Soviet Union were working under the assumption that the only way to deter a nuclear attack was to develop a massive arsenal that guaranteed a mutually assured destruction, MAD. America was extremely paranoid to the point that they kept airborne planes armed with nuclear weapons, ready to detonate, flying at all times for many years. To compound the anxiety, there was the fatal assassination of U.S. President John F. Kennedy in 1963. Most felt as though that America's pride, faith, and determination was vanishing. As the people grew more informed of all this chaos and conflict, they grew fearful of the unknown. Could the Soviets truly take over America? Was the great American way of life at risk? These were the questions on everyone's minds. Even the military forces of the time were incredibly biased by sending the uneducated and minorities to the front lines while giving others their preferred posts of either office jobs or honorable garrisons. With civil rights becoming a pressing issue, this caused a political uproar. Anti-war activist groups began forming in college campuses, gaining support from media exposure. This caused the military to begin circulating patriotic propaganda that played off of the people's fears and distracted them from the real issues here at home. The film touches on many themes dealing with power, warfare, the Cold War, and patriotism, but rather than exploring all of them, we'll focus on the two themes that dominate the narrative of the film and move the story forward. The paranoia during the Cold War and the irony of man's relationship with his own destruction. The building tensions created and reinforced a climate of paranoia on both sides, which happens to be a recurrent theme in Kubrick's film that drives the story forward. The inciting incident is based on the paranoia of a single deranged general. Paranoia is also one of the main internal conflicts that prevents the characters from getting their desires, whether it is beating the enemy first or preventing a nuclear holocaust argument.
Am I to understand the Russian ambassador is to be admitted entrance to the war room?
That is correct. He is here on my orders.
I don't know exactly how to put this, sir, but are you aware of what a serious breach of security that would be? I mean, you'll see everything. You'll see the big board.
That is precisely the idea, General. That is precisely the idea.
Kubrick tackles the idea that such fear and anxiety within the ranks of both the political and the military spheres may result in the total annihilation of the world as we know it. Although this theme may be addressed openly today, it must be understood that at this time it was indeed a very touchy topic, which is why Kubrick's use of clever satire makes it easily digestible for his audience. The second predominant theme in this film is the irony of war. While Kubrick mocks the exaggerated patriotism of the militant characters, he doesn't exactly show any favoritism towards the more moderate politicians in the movie. Instead, they are often exposed for their contradicting ideals.
Plan R is an emergency war plan in which a lower echelon commander may order nuclear retaliation after a sneak attack if the normal chain of command has been disrupted. You approved it, sir, you must remember.
He does this through the extensive use of ironic imagery and dialogue. In this scene, the US president tries to defuse a fight between a Russian ambassador and an American general.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
While the scene is comical in nature, it also has the merit of delivering a strong point, the irony of what war really is. This is a recurrent theme throughout the film. With it, Kubrick makes a clear statement about our strange relation with war, our attraction to the destruction of all things, ourselves included. While most of the irony may be found within dialogues, it is also triggered through strong imagery. In this shot, we see a board with a message that is instantly contradicted by the presence of fighting soldiers within the same frame. While peace is a pursued ideal by men, the human equation always seems to get in the way. We claim that we pursue freedom and tranquility, but that motivation for a free society seems to be enough for us to wage war. This bizarre relationship between humans and their own destruction, in this case nuclear weapons and the doomsday device, is also reflected in Dr. Strangelove. In fact, one could argue that he is the embodiment of this insane relationship. He is constantly shown trying to subvert his destructive nature depicted in the Nazis still inside him, but in the end, when destruction is inevitably accepted, Strangelove also seems to give in to his irreparability. We see and hear irony in Dr. Strangelove through the music and production design. The tune of Johnny Comes Marching Home is played in the scene with Major Kong in the B-52 bomber when he delivers his patriotic speech to his men. The irony here is the juxtaposition of the song to the reality of the pilots, who will not be coming home. Production designer Ken Adam, a former World War II pilot and architect, designed the war room as an underground chamber with a steep triangular ceiling. Kubrick specifically wanted this feature because it would be more resistant to shockwave. The geometric board and poker-like table give a modern feel to the war room, with its symbolism between these politicians and generals seemingly playing with the world like cards, gambling with lives on an international level. The room was built larger than life to lend the distanced decision-making that occurs in the movie. Fun fact, in the war room, actors had to wear felt coverings on their shoes to avoid scratching the black gloss paint on the floor, which led to George C. Scott's legendary tumble.
It's an obvious comic trick, Mr. President. We're wasting valuable time. Look at the big boy. They're getting ready to clobber us.
The overhead lighting in the war room illuminated everyone's face in an uneasy combination of light and shadows, which extenuated the drama to the already intense situation. It highlighted both the dread and uncertainty of not knowing if they can stop this bomb. Throughout the film, Kubrick uses his visuals to suggest the connection between the warring impulse and the male sex drive. It's full of phallic and sexual imagery, from the mid-air refueling that opens the film to where Major Kong is riding the bomb at the end. Kubrick designs the plot to come to life in a cause and effect fashion as we follow the chain of command passing down the inevitably chaotic Plan R. This opens up the door to show the almost humorous ease in which precautions, fail-safes, and secret codes crumble upon each other through a breach of trust in this edgy era of rivalry. This structure highlights the steps that are taken in such a domestic break to create a thrilling sort of anxiety similar to the real world. And furthermore, this emphasizes the comic relief's striving duty of escapism in the embrace of this film's touchy ideals. The comical lens allows for a proper criticism and illustration of the people who hold all of our national security in a way that is digestible for audiences who are in the midst of parallel rising tensions. The director has given us a great insight into man's relationship with war compared with society's relationship with itself. On a small scale, this is simply the story of men who cannot accept themselves and their failures. Subsequently, this is translated onto a larger scale to generalize humanity and what it means to be at war. He didn't need to show any scenes of the average American because he wanted the audience to look at themselves during that time and everything that was happening. Kubrick's politely saying that it's our own fault that so many people got hurt, and if we don't pay more attention to the root cause varying from national crises to trivial matters, we won't have a nation to care for anymore. The world we see today could change forever within the span of 90 minutes. So if we stop worrying, you'll have to learn to love the bomb.